Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of the program. It's Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, here momentarily. If you missed it last night and stayed up too late, as I did, watching Indiana. Indiana play. Yeah, who did Indiana? Not Indiana. It was Notre Dame. That's how tired I am. Notre Dame wins basically on a last-second shot, put back against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So March Madness is in full effect, double overtime now. Now Notre Dame, I don't know where they have to fly, but probably across the country somewhere. But we got Diego. San Diego. Brent, good morning. You're on the Titan MR hotline. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Good. It's good. And listen, I did the same thing. Notre Dame now plays Alabama. Right. Friday at about 5:15-ish, but you're right. That was a really good double overtime game, and if the rest of the tournament's anything like that, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it always is, and it kicks off today around 12:15. Andy says on Facebook Live, Shane, the Jackrabbits are warming up to whoop the Friars today. Yeah, that's my team, the San Diego State Jackrabbits. Brent. You got any surprises that you think may happen in this tournament before we get to college football?
I think that. Look, I love the tournament. Every year, it's just a lot of fun. I picked Kentucky to win it, and true to my SEC nature, I've got Tennessee and Kentucky in the Final Four to go along with that too. I think Iowa State is a team that could make a lot of noise. I think UAB, coached by Andy Kennedy, if you remember Andy Kennedy when he was at Ole Miss, those are a couple of teams that I think could do well. Texas Tech is another team that is really good. Even Chris Beard left there to go to Texas, but still they've got a tremendous team. They can D you up for 40 minutes, so should be a fun tournament and a fun day today.
Yeah, the great thing about it is just the different contrast of different teams. You know, the smaller schools playing the big boys. Arkansas better look out today against Vermont. Speaking of basketball, Gators come back and win against Iona and Rick Pitino last night. They will now play Xavier, who fired their coach yesterday.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to continue coaching in the NIT or if he's done or what, but it's crazy out there. In my opinion, the best college basketball job that was available has been filled, supposedly, there in Louisville. Brent, just your thoughts real quick. I don't think we haven't talked to you since Mike White basically resigned and took the job at Georgia. Your thoughts on that?
I think it was probably something that needed to happen on both parts. I mean, after 7 years, they probably needed to make a change. It did surprise me that he went to Georgia. Now, look, for Georgia, if you can have a coach that can get you to the tournament 4 out of 7 years or something like that, they will put a statue up of Mike White. If he does that in Athens, the way their program has been as of late. But I think Florida really would be willing to spend some serious money to go get a sitting coach somewhere that I think they would be very pleased with. So it's gonna be fascinating to see where that goes.
It is. And John says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mental Law. QB, here's a name I don't think no one has thought of. Thad Matta has said he is ready to get back into coaching. Thad Matta, who used to coach Ohio State,
Right.
That is a good name. I still think it's going to be a guy that nobody really knows who he is. I could be wrong, but because it's going to take some time, and you're not. I don't know. I trust that they're going to hire the right guy, but I don't think it's going to be a quote splash hire with his big name. I just don't see it happening because people talked about Scott Drew last week or when this all happened. Reports are Scott Drew makes almost like $6 million.
Yeah,
we're not going to pay a basketball coach $6 million. Plus, Baylor will outbid us. They have more money than we do.
Sure.
So anyway, enough of that. There was something else I had to mention to you, Brent, before we jump into. Oh, if you missed it last night, it was a heck of a softball game on TV. Number 2 against number 3. Alabama goes down again. They've lost 3 times already, Brent.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. That's unusual for Alabama, particularly with as deep as they are with pitching. But they played some really good teams, Florida included, and Florida State. So, and it's early with that, but this is going to be quite a year in softball this year.
It is, and I was flipping between basketball and that game last night, and I flipped over right when it ended. It said FSU has beaten Alabama for 6 straight games, and that really surprised me. So Anyway, that's kind of your news and notes out there. Again, the tournament kicks off. If you want to get into our tournament bracket challenge here for Pot Up with Matthews in the morning, go to the ESPN site. It should be linked on here. If not, we'll have Evan put it up. But just type in Pot Up with Matthews. You can join us. We're going to give away like a Spurrier Gridiron Grill package with all kinds of good stuff in there. So make sure you go fill out your bracket and see who gets lucky. All right, Brent, college football is in full swing now. Not everybody, but most everybody started spring ball. The Gators have. I was looking at your notes. The Gator spring game, orange and blue game, is on the 16th, but it's not on TV. It's on like SEC Network Plus. Yeah. But I know Tennessee's game is on TV. Georgia's game is on TV, but not the Gators.
Well, this is something that people need to be aware of for spring games. It's going to be different this year. Now, Southern Cal is the only spring game that's going to be live on ESPN. That is unusual that they don't have more spring games than they do. Now, what I've been told is this may be as evidence of more of a commitment to softball and baseball on television. But the Gator game is going to be on SEC Network Plus /ESPN Plus. The Georgia game is going to be on ESPN2, and we understand Tennessee is now. What I've been told is this is odd, but Tennessee's working out some situation. They're working on the stadium, and they're not going to have a spring game with fans. But what I believe is going to happen, and we may have to get further confirmation of this, that they're going to have a game inside the stadium with the players but no fans, and they're going to have some things around campus to kind of accentuate the fans who will be around there. So kind of stay tuned for that. I mean Alabama's the same way. It's going to be on SEC Network Plus too. So, but now people are going to have to get used to streaming. So hopefully us old dogs will learn new tricks here, or either my 7-year-old granddaughter can teach me how to do it. Notre Dame's spring game's on April the 23rd, and it's going to be exclusively on Peacock. Yeah. Now, Notre Dame actually had a game this past season. You remember that, Shane?
Yeah.
That they played, and the game was the only way you could see it was on Peacock. So now the reason we bring this up, I'll be brief about this. When we do the expanded playoff, whether it's 8 or 12 teams, some of these streaming entities, whether it be Peacock or Amazon or Yahoo or just pick one, is going to be in the bidding with this. So because of that, there are going to be more entities to bid on it, and there would be more money for it. So just all that to say that, Shane, at some point, you and I and everybody else, we're going to have to learn how to do the streaming thing, right?
Well, all our great listeners that we have, Brent, listen to this program, they've chimed in and said, we need to get Evan to hook up our SEC Plus streaming stuff.
yeah, absolutely.
Because I sure the hell don't know how to do it. So we may have to do that.
Be sure Evan gets paid for doing that too. Okay.
That's right. John says here, and we may get to this, but I think we mentioned this last week, but he said, hey guys, have y'all heard about the FSU player holding out for spring practice because he doesn't like his NIL deal? Have you heard about that, Brent?
I've heard a little bit about it. I will double check with that, but unfortunately, we probably are going to hear more about that. And look, the problem is he better be keeping himself in shape somehow, some way. That situation is going to backfire on some guys too, as far as chemistry and getting behind and what they should know. So, but unfortunately, that's sign of the times too.
And John replied, the kid is a low 3-star DB, really not that good. Dan says here, which is interesting, that Urban Meyer is working for Ohio State's NIL collective company. So everybody has those, and it's just, I still haven't bought into the NIL yet. Maybe I will one day. All right, Brent. They came out with the top 10 running backs in America. What do you think about that list?
Well, it's a pretty good list. I won't go into all of it, but Charbonnet at UCLA, I think people know his name. A-Chain at A&M is one of the better running backs anywhere, so that's certainly no surprise at that. Jahmyr Gibbs is at Alabama. He was transferred from Georgia Tech, so that's not real surprising. Henderson at Ohio State. And Robinson at Texas are two names that we will hear throughout the entire season. There'll be others who will step up. Some of these guys may not do real well during the year, but Mike Farrell had a quarterback and a running back top 10. This is that wonderful time of year, Shane, when you get all these lists, and they're fascinating to look at and fun. And we will see how that plays out.
Speaking of that, let's talk about the list of the top 10 returning QBs.
No question that we pretty well know who the top ones are. Young at Alabama, and also Stroud at Ohio State is going to be that. You're going to have Armstrong at Virginia, who is really good. Van Dyke at Miami is their kid who really came on at the end of the year last year, Tyler Van Dyke, and frankly was very good with that too. McCall at Coastal Carolina is good. Hendon Hooker at Tennessee is mentioned here. Larry at North Carolina State. Williams at USC is going to. It's a tremendous group of quarterbacks. Won't be surprised if Mr. Richardson at Florida joins that list before the year is over.
That could happen if he is the quarterback.
Correct.
I had so many, and looking on Twitter, and so many people, texting me about some of the comments that Billy Nate made after week one or practice one. Well, yes, I mean, Billy's going to praise the young kid because he is talented.
Sure.
What do people expect him to say? He didn't throw it very well today. I just don't see him being very good. People got to let it play out. Speaking of that, Andy's got a question here for you, Brent, on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law. Brent, does Billy Napier see some of Levi Lewis and Emory Jones? Emory's at the podium taking questions and seems to be in the quarterback mix again.
Well, I think I'll say this. I think he has treated the situation with Jones very well, and he has been fair with him. He's given him a shot. Look, I think that I don't think Jones is going to be your starting quarterback. I'm just being frank with you. But he has kept him there. I think his teammates have appreciated that. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Can the Miller kid play? That came from Ohio State. We don't, as Shane's mentioned, he's right. We don't know what that's going to be, and we don't know who else may end up stepping up before it's over. And that's why if you can watch the spring game, that's going to be fascinating to see.
I will say this: they have 5 scholarship quarterbacks right now. I think that's right. You got the 2 kids that were freshmen last year, Del Rio Wilson and Kidna. Then you got Miller, Richardson, and Emory. There's no way you can figure out who your starting quarterback is going to be by spreading all the reps around. Right. You're going to have to narrow it down probably a week before spring ball ends, in my opinion, and say, look, you 3 guys are going to be the guys that are going to battle all summer and in preseason camp to see who our starter is. I just don't know how you can get 5 guys reps, Brent.
Yeah, well, you really can't. It's just almost impossible. And if you're a Gator fan, this is something you need to really take in mind. To me, what may be more important than the quarterback situation, Florida starts the year, and I'm going to say this the whole summer long, with Utah and Kentucky. And what that means is they're going to have, to me, Shane, the line. Look, I know the quarterback is incredibly crucial, but to me, for this Gator team, they've got to be ready immediately when the season begins as far as physicality is concerned on the line of scrimmage. Because if they're not, I don't care who the quarterback is. These 2 teams can or good enough at the line of scrimmage to give Florida all kinds of problems. To me, that may be the number one priority, is to be ready for Utah and Kentucky on the line of scrimmage as much as it is to get a quarterback ready.
Very good point. Speaking of September, there are 5 huge games that will have national implications, I believe. Yes. Talk about those 5 games.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, some of these games are kind of under the radar a little bit, but there are certainly games to look forward to. In September, Arkansas and Texas A&M in Arlington, and that was a huge win last year for Arkansas. Oregon plays Georgia Labor Day weekend, and you've got Dan Lanning, who now the former Georgia defense coordinator at Oregon. Well, Kentucky at Florida is one of the names here that's also mentioned for this game, and Penn State at Auburn, which could be a very crucial game for Brian Harsin. And one of the games that's not mentioned here is Alabama goes to Texas. So there's some really good games in the month of September, and LSU and FSU play in New Orleans. So I think it was one of those things where they, the editor said, pick 5. That's a 5 you pick. Those are pretty good ones.
Yeah. Facebook Live brought to you by Melton Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Daniel says AR-15 will not be QB1. Take it to the bank, Jack Miller. I trust Shane and what type of QB we need in today's game. Look, here's the thing. None of us really know what Billy Napier wants to do offensively. Right. I mean, we can go back and watch the tape at Louisiana and whatever, but when you look at today's college football, you have to have a guy that can be a great decision maker, throw the ball accurately, and that's about it. I don't need a guy that can run a bunch, but that's what Anthony is. He's going to make dynamic plays. Yeah. Can he drop back and throw the ball 40 times on a consistent basis? We don't know. I don't know if Jack Miller can play dead in a Western, but I do know this. If you go to Ohio State, you got to be pretty dang good, right, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think all Gator fans will cross their fingers and say, I don't think he's going to be as good as Joe Burrow, but you never know. I can tell you right now,
Yep.
he was never going to play at Ohio State in front of C.J. Stroud. That dude is an elite thrower of the football. I mean, he can flat out throw it. So, John asked here, doesn't Miami play someone major in September? Do you
Texas
know?
A&M. Texas A&M. Yeah, that game should have been in there. That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, that's one of the bigger games of the year with Miami playing Texas A&M.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Brent, there's three running backs that transferred to actually schools in the SEC. Talk about those three guys. I know we've mentioned them a little bit, but just bring our listeners up to date on those three guys.
Yeah. Nathaniel Pete goes from Stanford to Missouri. Missouri's always had a really good running back. Also, you've got Noah Kane coming from Penn State going to LSU. LSU's going to be good at running back. We mentioned him earlier, but Jahmyr Gibbs went from Georgia Tech to Alabama, and he might, as good as all the Alabama backs are, Gibbs may be the best they've got. And Zach Evans went from TCU to Ole Miss, and he is a big-time running back. So that really gives Lane Kiffin another weapon to use this year.
And Zach Evans, if I remember correctly, when he came out of high school, he was the #1 running back in America. Wasn't he the guy that went to Georgia for a cup of coffee and then backed out or something like that?
I'll check that. I think that might be right. But
yeah.
when he was at TCU, 29 explosive runs of 10 yards or more is what he had recently. Man.
Yeah, he's a very good player. Okay, here's the one thing I definitely wanted to ask you today. The very, very talented JT Daniels is still sitting out there in the free agency portal. Maybe that tells you something why he never played at Georgia.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's several things going on here. Number one, as Shane said, he's had an injury history, at a reconstructed knee. He had some trouble with his core and his lat, and that's a question that hovers over him. That's just the way it is. Number two is he wants to graduate from Georgia before leaving for another school. Now the question is, where might he go? Well, Oregon State has been mentioned. Missouri has been mentioned. Missouri lost out on Jaden Daniels, who went to LSU from Arizona State. Now there's some talk about Daniels with some other schools. Southern Cal's been mentioned a little bit. Well, I mean, obviously he played at Southern Cal is what I meant. But the two, Oregon State, Missouri, is what we hear. There may be some others. I've seen TCU is a possibility, but the truth of the matter is, and Shane, you've mentioned this before, is there. Let's be honest. There's not a heck of a lot of tape on JT Daniels. I mean, we know he's a pretty good quarterback, but we really still are not sure how durable he is and how he's going to do long term. So the point of this is he's still at Georgia trying to graduate, and the quarterback question where he goes is still way up in the air.
Yeah, he's very fragile. Been hurt, as you just mentioned, multiple times. Has a really good arm. That doesn't mean you can play quarterback, though. I think he's decent, but was he better than Stetson Bennett? No, that's why he didn't play. No. It's just my personal opinion. People can have their opinions, but that's why, Buck Bellew, I would go on his show. He was a big JT Daniels guy. I was like, Buck, I don't care how far he can throw a football or how hard he can throw it. That ain't got nothing to do with playing quarterback. So anyway, let's talk about Rue's Ogre State Farm Office. It's a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. They offer auto, home, life, and health insurance. Go visit them at ogreinsurance.com or call them 352-240-1779. Speaking with our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, on the Titan More Hotline. You can follow Brent on Twitter at Brent Beaird. All right, Brent, let's hop around the SEC. What's going on up in Tuscaloosa?
They started last Friday. They had one session, and then they're off for spring break, which is odd, but Nick Saban's done that for years. They've got 3 guys who are going to be out for a while. Ja'Cory Brooks at wide receiver, won't see him until the summer. Not sure what all that's about. Ja'Cory Brooks caught the touchdown against Auburn late in the game. That made a real difference. Darian Dalcourt, the offensive lineman who's been at various positions, he won't be back until the summer too. And one of their edge rushers, Canoe Coat, is the same way. Saban likes his new coaching staff. Joe Cox, the former Georgia quarterback, is the tight ends coach. He's a good recruiter. Also trying to get the offensive line set. Kendall Randolph, who's played tight end, is also going to get a shot at the offensive line. So just a little news out of Alabama's first practice.
Arkansas, they're not having a spring game, but there's a pretty good reason why they're not.
Yeah, I thought this was rather amusing. Garth Brooks is playing in the stadium on March 24th. So how about that for a reason not have a spring game, Shane?
Yeah. It's a hell of a show because I went to the concert here in Gainesville when he played in the Swamp. I guess it was the year before COVID hit, but it was outstanding.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. KJ Jefferson is a behemoth, but they want him to lose a little bit of weight too. I'm curious your take on that, Shane. A big, strong kid, runs between the tackles, but they want he to be a little faster. The guy who's also coming back, Jalen Cantillon, is one of the best safeties in the entire SEC. He had a shoulder injury and a broken hand. So I think both he and KJ Jefferson will be back. And I tell you, Shane, again, this is a team that gets better almost every year. They're going to be a real force, particularly if Jefferson loses a little weight.
Yeah, he got a little big. He's still a tremendous runner, but if he can lose a little bit of weight, it'll help him. Auburn, man, it's got to be strange for Brian Harsin up there coaching when all that nonsense was going on. But they got a ton of quarterbacks trying to figure out who their starter is going to be as well. Yeah,
they really do. They've got seven quarterbacks. I guess if you got 7, you don't have one, do you? Now, TJ Finley, the LSU transfer, is also in there. He played some last year. Demetrius Davis is a young guy that they are trying to get some reps with too. Zach Calzada, we know from Texas A&M, and they've got some younger guys that a lot of our listeners won't be that familiar with. But and Shane, I'm going back to your logic a few minutes ago. And by the way, Harsin did deal with some of those issues that he went through with the media, and frankly did a pretty good job of doing that. But to the topic at hand here of quarterbacks, they have got to get, by the end of spring, as Shane said a minute ago, and I don't know what the number is, but they've got to have a manageable number, right, Shane, as far as quarterbacks. When you kind of end the spring, they won't name a starter, but you've at least got to kind of know who you're going to deal with for the summer, right?
There's no question. You got to narrow it down to 2 or 3 guys and then give them the reps and figure out who you can trust to put out there on Saturdays. So 7 is a lot. We have 5. Yes. That's a lot. But I would see Billy Napier and those guys narrowing it down as the spring progresses. Speaking of Coach Napier, his speaking tour came out. They haven't done this in quite some time. I feel like I haven't seen them speak at these different Gator clubs since Coach Spurrier was here. Am I wrong about that, Brent?
No, you're right. And that is something that I think is very important. I'm going to be very fascinated to see how this goes. He's got 9 stops. I won't go into all of them, but April 12th, he's going to be in Gainesville at the Quarterback Club. And he's coming here to Jacksonville on April the 21st. Tampa, Orlando, Lakeland, Pensacola, Fort Lauderdale, and Gainesville, and he's going to Atlanta And look, I think for recruiting, that is crucial for the Gator coach to go to Atlanta from time to time. There are a lot of Gator alumni, my understanding is, in that area. I'm with you. I'm glad to see him on the road, and first year coaches usually do this, and for good reason.
Yeah, and he's a great speaker, and I tell you what he does so well, Brent. You've been in the media for a long time. The dude knows how to answer every question.
He does.
You know what I mean? He knows how to answer it the correct way, where he spins it where it's always a positive note. That's my thought every time I hear him speak.
Yes, and you've got to be able to speak to the media. And look, it's the mantra of the media is, please just answer the question. And he's really good at that. And I'll be fascinated to see how he does on the tour.
Yeah, Jaden Hill, the corner that tore his ACL, is back. I forgot about him. He's a good player. We got a couple of Facebook Lives here brought to you by Metal Law. Dan says, I want to say Atlanta is the biggest Gator club outside of Florida. He's probably correct on that. Javier asks, do you think DeMarcus Bowman will finally get a chance to show what he can do? That's the transfer from Clemson a year ago, the running back.
Yeah. Hopefully, that's a good point. And you might remember they also had the Miami transfer to Lingard.
And the Louisiana Lafayette transfer that came with him. There was a play for the Raging Cajuns last year. I can't think of his name right now, but they got some good backs, but everybody's going to get their opportunity. Really do.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons you've got the spring is to see who steps up in the midst of that.
Yeah, up in Athens, anything interesting going on there?
Well, I think they've had some injuries or they've had some surgeries, but these are guys they know how they're going to do. Brock Bowers, the All-American tight end, had a shoulder situation, so he won't really be back, but they know what he can do. Darnell Washington at tight end is going to be the same. Stetson Bennett is back for his 6th year. I think most folks probably know that. Arian Smith, the wide receiver, is going to be able to practice some during the spring. That's going to be good, too. Also out for the spring, Samuel Modon, who's inside linebacker. Rian Davis, another linebacker. Tyke Smith, defensive back, recovering from a ACL. There's a pretty good long list here. I won't go into all of it, but they've had a transfer on the offensive line. Owen Condon is leaving. He's 6'3", 310. Played a little bit last year, so hopefully he'll get back and be doing okay too. And look, we know who's going to be the quarterback, but they've got a bunch of guys: Gunnar Stockton, Brock Vandergriff, Carson Beck, who's from Jacksonville. Shane, to me, the big question for Georgia is going to be is who the backup will be before the spring and the summer.
Well, you just mentioned those three guys: Gunnar Stockton, Brock Vandergriff, and Carson Beck, all 5-star quarterbacks that are backups. One of them has a chance to be the starter next year, unless Bennett is injured. I see transfer written on a couple of those kids already.
Sure. Oh, yes. Agree with that totally.
Yeah. All right. A few more minutes with Brent Beaird here on the Tightening My Heart Line. LSU, obviously, they got all kinds of issues in their athletic program over there. They're looking for a basketball coach now. Any news coming out of Baton Rouge?
Well, the question that comes out of that is how does that affect the football program and the cash payments by Odell Beckham? You remember when Beckham's on the sidelines and he's just giving out money, said it was play money, but they checked on that and it wasn't. Here's the concern here for LSU, and most of this, basically just about all of it's basketball, but the dreaded 3 words that you never want to hear is lacked institutional control is the problem here. They had 8 level 1 violations. We don't know what the NCAA would do to punish the school altogether, but that's certainly something that we're going to be watching. But safe to say, the basketball program will be hit a lot harder than the football program will.
Yeah. Ole Miss Rebels, they lose their top 3 running backs from last year's team. Snoop Connor and Jerrion Ely are preparing for the draft. Henry Parrish transferred to Maryland. But as you mentioned earlier, they picked up the big-time running back, Zach Evans, but they just got another one that's a really, really good player. I've seen him play. Ulysses Bentley from SMU. Lane, he ain't even worried about recruiting high school kids anymore, I don't think. I think he just looks in the portal.
He does. And look, when you have as much success as they do in the portal, that makes a big difference. So, and look, you know they're going to have a quarterback. They've got Jackson Dart, and you know they're going to have receivers. Now they're looking for running backs, and they've got them. So it will be another tremendous Ole Miss offense this year.
I tell you, the one team that I'm anxious to see, because I like Shane Beamer. I like what he did at South Carolina. Nobody expected him to do anything. He's got positive energy. But I really am anxious to see Spencer Rattler because he's talented. Now, he played horrible at times last year when he was benched.
Right.
But South Carolina ain't had a quarterback since, who knows when. I think they could be a team that could be very sneaky with Spencer Rattler.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. You have to go back to Stephen Garcia to some degree with some of these guys, but they've got Spencer Rattler. Luke Doty is back. Luke can be a quarterback. He can also play different positions. Colton Gaither is also involved with that. He's kind of kept this quarterback room together, which he's done a good job with. Frankly, Sherrod Green, the linebacker that had a broken ankle against Georgia, is still not full speed yet. But I'm with you. It's going to be interesting to see. They started Tuesday. Florida started this week. Georgia started this week. Now, what's interesting is with these schools that just started, Missouri has their spring game coming up on Saturday.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, Coy says Connor Shaw. Connor Shaw was a hell of a player for Coach Spurrier at South Carolina.
He was.
His
Absolutely.
name wouldn't come to me there. All right, Brent, before we let you go, give us some nuggets before you get out of here.
Also wanted to mention that Josh Heupel is replacing some key guys at Tennessee, Kate Mays, Velus Jones at wide receiver, Mays the right tackle, and Javante Payton at wide receiver. But they've got the guys in order to do it. Hendon Hooker comes back. They've got 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line. Boy, on offense, if you've got any unit that you want to come back and attack, at the offensive line would be one of those. I think that you would be looking at two. I also wanted to make. I don't have this in my notes, but I'm going to find it. I've been told that there was an article out this week from a guy who does projections on analytics and numbers, and they did a projection. The SEC a few weeks ago announced that every school would make $54 million apiece in the SEC. Well, the projections that came out this week in this article were on having this is just an 18 playoff, okay? Not even a 12.
Wow.
I'm laughing because the projections were in 2029 that again, remember, 54 million this year in 2022. In 2029, the projection is every SEC school would make $104 million a year per school.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And just think of how many facilities will be built between now and then, or upgraded, I should say. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
crazy.
And by the way, my last note: Phil Steele has come out to say that the last page of his magazine goes to press on June the 8th. Will be on the newsstands by July the 4th. Today is St. Patrick's Day on March 17th. Basically, 2 months from today, we will have our first preseason magazines. How about that?
How about that? Well, Brent, have a great St. Patrick's Day. Don't party too hard, my man, and we will talk to you soon.
And enjoy March Madness. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you ain't lying. That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. Going to take a timeout, come back, get to your Facebook Live, your text messages, talk little college hoops because it's kicking off here, folks, in a couple hours. You're watching and listening to Pot Up Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Are you tired of being sidelined by nagging pain? Hi, I'm Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer and Dance with the Stars champion. Happy to tell you about QC Kinetics and their biologic therapies for treating pain without drugs or surgery.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, or lower back? Are you tired of living with arthritis pain? QC Kinetics offers natural pain treatment that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints.
Listen, I know pain, and I've seen firsthand how powerful biologic therapies can be. Patients at QC Kinetics rave about their result because they're getting their lives back. They are getting moving again.
These exciting regenerative treatments used to be available only to pro athletes like Emmitt. Now they're available to anyone thanks to QC Kinetics. Call today for your free consultation.
Get long-lasting results from my friends at QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. In North Central Florida, call 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Regal Cinemas, Les Macarons, Bass Pro Shops, International Diamond Center, Prime and Pearl, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Now serving brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. I want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us on the Titan More Hotline. Don't forget, we're going to do a nice Spurrier's Gridiron Grill package with a gift card, sign ball by me and Coach, paraphernalia, clothing from his restaurant. Once we find out who wins, we'll get your size and get that all to you. So make sure you tell your friends and family to go to the ESPN. It should be on the link here. Sign up. You got a couple more hours left to go. Real quick, in some other college football news, Arch Manning has set up 2 visits during spring ball. One is to Georgia and one is to Texas. I still believe there's 3 teams in the mix for Arch Manning, and it's Georgia, Texas, and Alabama. So we'll see how that all plays out. Question here on the Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. Andy asked Shane, when you were with the Bengals, did you get to know John Kitna? Have you ever chatted with his son, Jalen? Hopefully he will get a fair shot from Billy to show what he can do. Yes, my 1 year there was Kitna's. It was me, John Kitna, and Carson Palmer. Marvin Lewis's first year. Kitna is a great, great guy. Played in the league a long time. I have spoken with his son a couple of times. I had John Kitna on our show during COVID before when his kid was committed, hadn't signed, but we talked on the show. I don't know what, like I said, I got to go watch some practices to see what Billy's going to do offensively. Probably still won't know much, because if you heard what Coach Napier said in his press conference, they're trying to teach these guys football, teach them the system, the concepts, the philosophy that he wants them to play with. I mean, it's a work in progress. So we shall see. But we'll see if Jalen Kitna gets a shot or not. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. Make sure you fill out your brackets. I'm curious if anybody has any big upsets. I think, as I've said for weeks, I think South Dakota State beats Providence today. The Arkansas Razorbacks better look out, man. Vermont is a tough, tough matchup for them. G ask on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Hey, Shane, with Joe Buck and Troy, I guess he didn't really ask a question. I think he quit typing. Yeah, Joe, if you missed it, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are no longer with Fox. They are now going to be the Monday Night Crew, which the Monday Night Crew has been really bad for ESPN. I think this is a good move for them, having an established group running, commentating. However, I still prefer the Manning podcast. I don't know if they'll continue that now to compete with Monday Night Football with Troy and Joe Buck, but I thought the Manning podcast was phenomenal. If you ever missed it, you missed out. John says the Jackrabbits are going to the Final Four. Book it. And I don't know about that, because I think their next game they're matched up with Iowa. I don't have the bracket in front of me, so that's a terrible matchup. Two good teams that can get up and down the floor and can score. I like teams that can score. That's why I like Vermont is going to slow it down, and they can shoot the three. I'm worried about Arkansas being an SEC school bowing out in the first round. Hope I'm wrong, but it could happen. I wish I had my bracket printed out so I could talk to you guys about it, but I don't have it. But I do want to tell you about QC Kinetics. If you got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away, you need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. No surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. Also, Gator Baseball cranks up SEC play against Alabama. Man, the SEC, we say it every year, how difficult it is. It could be more difficult this year in baseball, in my opinion. It's going to be crazy how difficult it is. This Day in Sports, which is brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Comfort Temp's now hiring team members with all levels of experience. Give them a call, 352-376-2366. This Day in Sports, 2019 at the PGA Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass, Roy McIlroy of Northern Ireland wins his biggest check for $2.25 million by one stroke over Jim Furyk. I want to say Cameron Smith won $3.6 million this weekend, the biggest purse in all of golf. So that's This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. John says, I feel like Iowa plays like their football team, all defense and points off the turnovers. Iowa was extremely good offensively. I mean, they got dudes that can shoot the basketball. They're fun to watch. So let's take our final timeout. We'll come back, have a few wrap up a few more comments before we get out of here. You're watching and listening to Pot Up Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, Comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics. Live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips. It's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Aikido America, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios at South State Bank. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner they can rely on. South State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking forward, member FDIC. Again, I want to thank Brent Beaird, college football analyst, for joining us on the Tight Number Hotline. First game today in the tournament, Michigan, Colorado State at 12:15. I like Colorado State to win that. Michigan has, in my opinion, has zero business being in this tournament. Then the Jackrabbits will beat Providence. Memphis Boise will be a very good game. I'm just looking at some of the games today. Marquette, North Carolina, 8-9 game will be should be very exciting. Be careful, Connecticut, for the New Mexico State Aggies. Very good athletic team. I think Indiana will lose. San Francisco against Murray State. However, San Francisco, one of their best players I read, injured his knee in practice the other day and will not play. But boy, they're a good basketball team, as is Murray State. And then Texas Southern will get drawn by the Jayhawks. So should be fun, folks. We'll recap it all on Monday. A lot of hoops, golf, Gator baseball, Gator softball, and many other things. Hope you have a why did I think it was Friday? It's not Friday, folks. It's Thursday. So we'll see you tomorrow. We'll recap tonight's games, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
1st and 10. Matthews, near side, wide open, Alonzo Sullivan. He may go. Touchdown, Gators.